Erik Spiekermann has a passion for fonts. Letter fonts, that is. The typeface designer is an internationally acclaimed expert. Just one glance is enough for him to identify the era from which a particular lettering dates, like the nostalgic Alexanderplatz train station sign in the German capital.
It has a
hint of Art Deco. If you look at the E, you see the middle bar is lower than usual. This one has a bit of the character of the time when Alexanderplatz was the heart of downtown Berlin. And you can still sense that in the typeface.
Spiekermann has offices in Berlin, as well as Amsterdam, London, and San Francisco. He's behind the corporate design of German car manufacturer Audi. A few years ago, he redesigned The Economist magazine. Since it traded in its old look for a new one, its sales have doubled. Spiekermann's secret to success? A good font is one that you don't notice.
You don't read a typeface, you read a text. The medium is as invisible as air. We breathe in continuously, but if we stopped to think about it, we'd probably start coughing. A font is perceived only subconsciously.
Back in the 1980s, Erik Spiekermann described how the lettering on restaurant sides subliminally affects the viewer.
The words are written in spaghetti type or letters spread out like pizza dough. The Greeks use angular letters, which remind us of ancient inscriptions. A pub that wants to be seen as traditionally English goes for old-fashioned lettering and hand-painted flourishes.
Analyzing and exploring typefaces has remained Spiekermann's passion to this day.
I have to identify everything. I can't read anything without knowing what font it's in. When I'm driving on the highway, I memorize all the signs, read all the license plates, and learn them off by heart. There are people who would rather watch shapely women, or women's shoes, or car models. But my eyes are on the typography.
The differences are often difficult for a layperson to distinguish. But it's precisely these details that matter. That's because small nuances are what the designers change. The thickness of letters, the distances between them, their form. It can take months for Erik Spiekermann and his team to develop a completely new font.
90%
of a typeface looks like all the others. An A has to look like an A, and a B has to look like a B. Otherwise, you can't read it. But this 10 or 15% leeway I have as a designer is what I use to get a certain tone and create distinctions.
One of Spiekermann's most prominent projects was designing fonts for German rail operator Deutsche Bahn. Letters with little individuality, but which are effective due to their familiarity.
The Deutsche Bahn font is a large family of typefaces. Typefaces with little feet or serifs, typefaces for long texts or short texts, for different schedules. They have to be effective. They're the voice of Deutsche Bahn.
And Erik Spiekermann has developed another specialty, fonts which provide orientation. After German unification, he developed the signage for Berlin's transportation network. Legible and clear, a simple logic that some signs do not adhere to.
The tourist orientation system in Berlin has too many arrows pointing in the wrong directions. Here it's a generic Microsoft system script, and then it's white on blue. And in fact, the blue comes from the highway system. And that's what you get when a bureaucrat thinks he's the one to reform a system. If it can go wrong, it will.
Erik Spiekermann can get very annoyed about bad fonts. For the influential designer, this line of work is very much a labor of love.